Hi, I'm Nick Maselli. At TD Bank, we believe all citizens need to be informed about the important financial issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, County College of Morris, connecting learning and life, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, Activists in cooperation with the American Medicine Chest Challenge, TD Bank, and by PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Tisch WNET studio in the heart of New York City. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce Akhtar, who is the the Pulitzer Prize-Winning Playwright of a one-act play called Disgraced, which is at
the Lyceum Theater on West 45th Street.
Interesting. Disgraced, one-act play. It's about a Muslim American attorney who is on the verge of achieving the American dream, but it is so much more than that.
It is.
Talk about it.
Well, the centerpiece of the play is a dinner party, and two couples get together and talk about a dinner party fueled by a little too much drinking, and talk about everything you're not supposed to talk about: religion, politics, etc.
Which makes it fascinating
and explosive. So the play is really kind of, the way I think of it is really kind of a litmus test about where we are with political correctness and also with identity and racial politics.
Particularly for Muslim Americans post 9/11?
Indeed, though one of the characters is Jewish, another is African American. So a lot of those sort of progressive immigration issues, all of that stuff is part of, being Jewish American or being Muslim American or being African American, part of that hyphenate American experience and the ways in which that's...
Want to see a clip?
Yeah, sure.
We see a clip?
Let's do it.
This is a clip from a fascinating play at the Lyceum Theater. It is from Disgraced, and we'll talk right after this. Disgraced.
The play begins and opens up on a successful American, Amir, who has climbed to the top of a ladder and has followed a prescribed set of American values and has the perfect wife and the perfect job and the perfect apartment. And that over the course of the play, that begins to slowly unravel.
One of the great things about this play is it's going to lead to fantastic post-theater discussions and arguments, and I feel like it's a play that you're just going to be talking about it, maybe hopefully for days afterwards.
Man, that's behind the scenes look. One of the characters I recognize there is from Boardwalk Empire.
Gretchen Mol.
Great. Gretchen Mol. She's Jimmy Doherty's mother. Oh, never mind. She's fabulous.
She's an amazing actor.
What a cast.
I know. I told you. You gotta come see the show.
Got to be seen.
Exquisite cast. Exquisite cast. The show we premiered in Chicago, then it came here to Lincoln Center. And then we did it in London, and now we're back in New York. And each time we've had different casts, and each time we've had wonderful casts, but this is the first time that every single person is perfectly cast. It's really, as a playwright, it's just a dream come true.
People come here from all over. My family comes here from Italy. Your family comes here.
Pakistan.
We all try to figure out what the heck this thing is supposed to be about.
That's
the
right.
American, still a dream? Who knows, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. The American experience, and I think of it this way, is really about folks coming from an old world to a new world, rupture from that old world, renewal of the self in a new world, leaving things behind, making new things your own. And that process of rupture and renewal, you see it 7, 8 generations in, kids leaving their parents, moving to other coasts, beginning new lives. It's central to the American experience is breaking away and renewing the self. And the play in a lot of ways is about the costs, because we always talk about—
The cost of what? Breaking away?
Of breaking away, of losing, of severing oneself from what one comes from.
But isn't the irony, maybe it's not even ironic, the irony is that on some level it is perceived to be a success to have broken away, and then therefore you're now talking about, and the play talked about the price we pay for this success.
That's exactly right. Because nothing's black or white. We'd like to think that it is, but everything is filled with contradictions. So yes, there's a lot to be gained, but there are things that are lost. And in a post 9/11 landscape, I think that the Muslim American immigration or immigrant experience is much more complicated. And, we could look back to Catholic Americans, in the 40s and 50s, and we can look to the sort of first generation of Jewish Americans coming over from Europe after the Second World War, and the kinds of difficulties finding its way, those communities had finding their way into the larger
this is more
majority.
complex. I mean, you can talk about
even more complex.
It's interesting. It's so interesting. People would talk about, for Italian Americans, Mussolini would be talked about sometimes because the United States was here, Italy was there, but that was like ancient history. So it wasn't that big of an issue, right?
Right.
9/11 for Muslims,
Yeah.
Muslim Americans, it's real.
Well, sure. Well, yeah, we're still living with it.
Yes.
Everything I write comes from something real, either observed or lived.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
One of the things at dinner parties sometimes that people work real hard to make sure it doesn't happen is we get deep. But sometimes when people drink and
let their guards down,
we're not so PC.
Right.
We start talking about things we're not supposed to. And it strikes me that questions get asked and people respond in a way that they say, oh my God, I wish I hadn't said that. But then that's when you're finally getting to—
That's right.
What? Real stuff.
Right. You're getting to where people really are. It's not the veneer of presentability or likability or, it's about what's really happening. I think until you begin to confront that in yourself, you can't really see the world clearly, And I think coming of age, if it means anything, it means coming to be in reality a little bit more clearly.
People walk away from this play.
Yeah.
People walk away with all kinds of things. Is one of the goals is to get people to have more, to be less interested in presenting themselves and more interested in more candid and sometimes awkward, uncomfortable conversations that are real? I know it's a loaded question.
No, it's not. It's a good question. I think that the purpose of art, if I can be so bold, has always been on some level liberation from the shackles of illusion, from the lies that we tell ourselves. And I think that to the extent that the play participates for an audience with a process of coming to understand something more deeply, hey, I think it's money well spent. But
plug it again. You mind if that's not presenting? That's just being candid. Where is it again?
The Lyceum Theater on 45th Street, between 6th and 7th.
And it's called Disgraced.
That's
I want to thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Steve.
It's you won a Pulitzer.
Apparently.
It's impressive.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it. All the best.
All right.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this from the Tisch WNET studio in Lincoln Center. That was great.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Yolanda Jimenez is the executive director of the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Why don't we do this? The Safe at Home Foundation is dedicated to?
So the Safe at Home Foundation is dedicated to really helping and supporting young people who have witnessed violence at home or in schools or in their communities. And as you know, this foundation came about by Joe and Allie Torre. And Joe has countless of times told his story about how he grew up in a home where there was abuse and how it affected him.
Yeah, so Joe talked about this, and Allie, his wife, and we got connected to Joe and Allie and the Safe and Home Foundation through our partners at Cohn Resnick, our longtime partners who hold a golf outing that raises money for the Safe and Home Foundation. Why don't we hear the great Hall of Famer, former Yankee, our great friend and president here at WNET, Neil Shapiro will love this, Yankee great, Joe Torre, talking about the Safe and Home Foundation and why he started it right here. Joe Torre.
I grew up in a violent home. My dad abused my mom, made me very fearful, had very low self-esteem. You know, who would have dreamed at that point in my life that what was ahead was a Hall of Fame baseball career? My dad was a bully. He controlled my mom, whether it be the paycheck, physically abusing, intimidating her. Bullying, which is going on in our schools right now, originates in the home. The one thing I knew is I didn't want to be my dad.
Joe's the best. Joe's mom's name is Margaret.
Margaret.
Which is why there is something at the Safe at Home Foundation called Margaret's Room.
Yes, Margaret's Place.
Margaret's
so
Place.
it's a school-based program, and we have an intervention and prevention program in the schools, and it's a space, a safe space where young people can go. And what we find is that when they go into the space, they feel very comfortable, and many of them will end up sharing with us the fact that they have witnessed violence in their home. Some of them may even be in a relationship that is abusive or potentially violent. And we have an opportunity at that point to provide either one-on-one counseling or group counseling, and also connect them to other services. And, you know, this is really the best way to end the cycle of violence. I have been doing this work for many, many years. Prior to joining the Safe at Home Foundation, I was the former commissioner for the Mayor's Office to Combat Domestic Violence. And if we're going to get to that place where we're finally going to end the cycle, it really needs to be in the area of prevention.
You know, we're in the middle of, we're taping toward the back end of 2014. The NFL, a lot of attention about this.
Yes.
People can decide for themselves how the NFL has handled it or not handled the situation, but it's brought a lot of attention to it.
Absolutely.
One of the things it's also done is brought attention to the question of what domestic violence is and is not. From your perspective, as an expert at this, at the Safe at Home Foundation and your experience before, define domestic violence for us so that we can end the debate.
You know, domestic violence is more than just sort of physical violence. It also includes emotional, sexual, financial abuse. And it really is a pattern of behaviors, learned behaviors that one person is trying to exert on another person in order to control them. In many instances, it doesn't start off as physical abuse.
What could it look like? So someone could say, hey, listen, I see this. What are they looking for?
They're looking for somebody who might be humiliating them in front of their friends. It may be somebody who's trying to control where they go, what they do.
Calling on the cell phone every 5 minutes to know where you I have to know where you are all the time.
Absolutely.
That's domestic violence?
Well, those are signs of an abusive relationship.
Okay.
Those are signs that somebody is trying to control your behavior. And they may then resort to physical violence if they can no longer exert that control through other means, through emotional means or through coercion. So they may resort then to the physical violence. You know, if I can't keep you in the house, I will literally pull you to stay in the house. I will hit you, choke you. So yes, there's this.
How about controlling every penny?
Controlling financial abuse as well, controlling all the finances in the home, making sure that you know, they're either withholding financial support for someone or their family, or they're looking to control every single dollar that comes out.
No, let me ask you this. Again, our job on public broadcasting is not to editorialize or do commentary. We don't do that. We ask the questions. However, from your perspective, the NFL can do all the investigations it wants, set up all the committees it wants. And it's not about just the NFL, but professional sports. Do you think there's been a culture in professional sports, but particularly in the NFL, to not deal with what seems to be a pattern, a preponderance of cases involving players who clearly have been involved in domestic violence cases? And the NFL has done what?
Look, I think that, unfortunately, domestic violence is all too pervasive in our society. You know, the spotlight right now is on the NFL and what has happened in the cases that we have all witnessed. And to those of us working in this field, I mean, this is a daily
Are you
occurrence.
shocked by any of it?
No.
Okay, but seeing the video of Ray Rice and his then fiance, did that for a lot of people say, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Now I see it on video. Now I know what you're talking about. You didn't need to see that video, did you?
I didn't need to see that video. You knew, no, I didn't need to see that video.
But now that we've seen it, now what? What's the responsibility of for the rest of us now that we've seen the video?
You know, we all need to educate ourselves and understand that this is way, way too common. And that the message that this also sends to anyone who's a victim of domestic violence or who's in this type of situation is for them to know a couple of things. One, that they're not alone, that it's not their fault, and that help is available. One of the things that has happened as a result of this media attention on this situation has been an increase in calls to the domestic violence
From
hotline.
women?
Yes.
Women who
From
no longer
victims.
believe they have to stay where they were?
Well, it's not just about staying. It's about speaking out. It's about reaching out for help. It's not so easy to just get up and walk away. You know, everybody says, why doesn't she just leave? Well,
Right.
it's not that easy. You know, you're in a relationship with someone that you have children with.
Complicated.
There's an emotional ties. It's never easy to break away
Right.
from a
And they don't even know a
relationship.
place like the Safe at Home Foundation is even there. But now that they know, what happens?
Now they know that resources are available. There's, you know, the criminal justice system has response, has resources. There are advocacy groups all across this country. There are hundreds and hundreds of advocates that work tirelessly every day to make sure that a victim of domestic violence gets the help that they need. You know, it's no longer a situation where there is no help. There's help out there.
So for your organization, what do you do for these women and their children that potentially turns their life, I'm going to say around, well, in many cases it does, but puts them on a better track?
What we do at the Torre Safe at Home Foundation through Margaret's Place is provide education, provide a skill set for young people to better understand how to carry on a healthy relationship. We also connect them to services. We also provide direct counseling. We have social workers at our sites, and we're looking to increase the number of programs. You know, it's estimated that there's 15 million young children who witness violence at home a year.
15 million.
15 million.
What happens? I'm just trying to think about those children.
Yes,
and what,
yes, the need is clearly out there. And we need to obviously enhance support for these services. We need to be able to be in every school. We need to be able to touch the lives of young people to say, if you're in this relationship, you heard Joe talk about how he felt.
Yes.
We don't want children living in fear.
and can we break this cycle?
Yes,
Sorry for interrupting.
yes, we can.
Even if a child has seen it,
Yes.
and their parents saw it, and their parents' parents saw it, we can still break it.
We can still break it. We can still break it by giving them the skills to deal with these situations. You know, we had I'm thinking of a young boy who came to one of our programs, 13 years old. His mother was in a domestic violence situation. Mother had to leave to go to shelter with this young boy. He's 13 years old, trying to deal with this situation, came to one of our programs, was able to get the assistance, was able to get the support that he needed, and was also able to help his mother with sort of real-life assistance in terms of where you can get food, go to a food pantry, go to other services. We shouldn't
can do
have to.
Yolanda, I want to thank you, and thank you all of our friends at the Torre Safe
Thank
at Home
you.
Foundation, to Joe and Allie and to Dan and everyone up there. We say thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Also, numbers have been flashing throughout this segment for places to go for resource help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yolanda. Stay right there.
Thank you.
We'll be back right after this. Thank you so much.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
The hardest part about my dad having ALS was that there's no medicine that could cure it. You just have to wait and hope.
Being diagnosed with ALS is like being pushed out of a skydiving plane and wondering if your chute will open or if you will just hit the ground at high speed.
You go from a totally functional human being, and all of a sudden, you can't do things like shake hands with somebody. You couldn't tell me or convince me that there was anything that I couldn't do. And right now, I'm beginning to wonder tomorrow if there's anything I can do.
We're honored to have Donna York with us, the founder and president of an organization called HARK, which is named after?
My dad. My dad, who was given the name as a child and was the only way my mother ever referred to him.
His nickname is HARK. Charlie HARK Dorney.
Dorney, yes.
And what, by the way, what were we just watching? A film?
That was actually the trailer for a documentary that we filmed. I lost my dad in 2009. And when the doctor called to tell us what it was, after 18 months of trying to find out what was wrong with him, yeah, that's him.
That's your dad. Go ahead.
That's definitely him. He said, I believe your father has ALS and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And so we watched for the next 18 months as he lost his ability to walk, talk, breathe, swallow, eat. And he was really one of the strongest people I have ever known. So to see what that disease did to him, it was just heart-wrenching. And so in 2011, a friend of mine came to me, and actually her husband was Art Anderson, who was in the film.
And the name of the film is?
Hope on the Horizon.
Hope on the Horizon. Go ahead.
Yes. And she said, you know, Don, I think my husband has ALS, but he had lost the ability to use his hands, and he was out of work. They didn't have any insurance. Their house was in foreclosure, and so he wouldn't go to the doctor. So long story short, he was diagnosed with ALS. And, you know, my thought through this with her was we had all the resources we needed to take care of my father. He was a veteran. ALS is a service-related disability, so we had benefits from that. He was very, what we say, frugal. So he saved a lot of money. He had a pension. We had 7 kids to take care of him. We were able to keep him home. And then I have, on the other side of this poor woman who had to quit her job to take care of her husband, didn't have anything. And so I sort of looked out there and said, okay, is there anybody out there that helps these people? And I really didn't find too many organizations that provide financial support. So that's what we did, and that's why I started HARK. But the dilemma was, how do I raise money for a disease that nobody knows anything about?
And this was pre-Ice Bucket Challenge.
Yes. Yeah, 3 years ago.
Wow.
And even when my father was, suffering with it, everyone kept saying, did your father have a stroke? Did your father have a stroke? And I'm like, no, he has ALS. And then they look at me and I'd say, Lou Gehrig's disease? Because that's how people know it. But nobody ever saw Lou Gehrig with a feeding tube, a trach tube, not being able to move anything but his eyes. He just gave his famous speech. And I love Lou Gehrig. I mean, he was a great man, but he gave his famous speech and he walked off the baseball field, and his wife never let anybody see him like that.
That's the irony of this. The reason you're in the studio is because it's true. I wrote a column on Lou Gehrig as someone who gave an extraordinary speech at Yankee Stadium that moved people. And people wrote in, and you were one of the ones who said, you didn't get it right, Steve.
Yeah.
You said, Steve, you got it wrong, because you stopped the story with the speech, and there was so much more that people needed to know about ALS. And in some ways, while it was no disrespect to Lou Gehrig, you said that I needed to tell, and we needed to tell the rest of the story, which is what you're doing.
Yes. Well, it was also because when you wrote the column, you kept referring to him as having a fatal illness, but never said ALS. And never said what ALS was. And the one thing in the ALS community is to raise, I mean, obviously the Ice Bucket Challenge now has brought this really out into the public eye.
Has it helped?
It has, because people are talking about ALS, but to be honest with you, I really wonder if I walked out on that street right now and said, did you do the Ice Bucket Challenge? And people said yes, and I said, what's ALS? I'm not sure they really.
So what do we need to do?
A picture's worth 1,000 words. I mean, you can sit here and talk about ALS forever and how devastating it is and debilitating and what it does to people. But especially in our documentary, there's a gentleman named Martin Wallum who got it when he was 41 years old. No, 31. He's now 41. He can only move his eyes. That is it. He's being kept alive by a trach tube, a feeding tube. He's in a chair that basically he gets transported in. And he has a 10, 11-year-old son. And this is his life as long as his life lasts.
We need to see this?
Yes.
Why?
Because you need to see it. People need to see ALS. They need to put a face, to the disease, and not just one face. But people think this disease is so rare. And I mean, I'm telling you, if you just go out and say, do you know what ALS is? They might say, no, but my uncle so-and-so had it, or I lost this person.
Not that rare.
It's not.
What do you need for us to do in the time we have left? What do you want people to do once we learn more?
Well, I want people to, when they're thinking about where they're going to give their charitable dollars at the end of the year, I want them to look to an ALS organization. But I want them to look to one that, obviously I want them to give it to HARK. That's why I'm here, and there's not a lot of organizations that help patients financially. But research is also important too. But just do your homework. Go to GuideStar. Go to these, these websites that rate nonprofits, and make sure you're giving it to somebody that's actually really using the money for what.
I am so glad you wrote in after I wrote that column. I'm so glad that you are doing what you're doing, and that you joined us here in public broadcasting to share your story, which is the story of a lot of other people. And I encourage everyone to go out and see this movie and check it out. Keep doing what you're doing.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, County College of Morris, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, MD Advantage, activists in cooperation with the American Medicine Chest Challenge, TD Bank, and by PSE&G. Promotional support provided by Commerce Magazine and by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
New Jersey is a leader in solar power, and PSE&G is doing its part. With 24 solar installations in New Jersey, projects that are giving landfills new purpose and turning former brownfields green. Solar powers more than our homes and schools and businesses. It powers our economy by creating jobs right here in the Garden State. PSE&G, proud to support New Jersey.